Dorothy's daughter. Welcome to my channel. If you want to take your sewing to the next level, you're in the right place. So today I'm going to talk to you about types of knits. And I know I'm probably going to encounter a piece of knit that I didn't talk about because there are just so many. But they're all related to each other, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what to look for in your project. So before I get to that, I just want to say thank you again for my new subscribers. I am 10,000 subscribers, grown community, and I am just thrilled beyond belief. Be sure and check out our Facebook group. It's very active, and you all are helping each other so much. So this past week, we had a little scare with COVID. I was exposed to my sister-in-law who's ill with COVID, and she's doing well, but she has been very sick at home, recuperating. And I had an allergy attack and decided that it would be prudent for me to be tested. I am negative and I am feeling better, but it was a little bit of a scare. So when they tell you to take this thing seriously, folks, please do. My sister-in-law is very sick, and I don't want to see anybody else I love go through that. So please wear your mask, do what they tell you. If we all cooperate, we'll get through this thing together. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's my PSA for today. All right, now when it comes to knits, you can know the obvious benefits. I think it's really funny that I chose a woven dress to wear today. That was not planned. Anyway, the benefits of knits, of course, are wearability. They're just extremely comfortable to wear. They can be easy to sew once you get a hold of them. And basically, if you learn how to sew knits, you will never turn back. They are easier to sew once you realize how forgiving they are and how easy fit they are. They open your whole world to things that you thought you could only do in ready to wear. So I just want to talk to you about a couple different types and properties of knits. So basically, the way they differ from each other is in their weight, is in the type of stitch that's used to knit it. For example, a jersey is different than an ITY, is different than a double brush poly, etc. So what that makes happen is they have different percents of stretch and different stretch in regards to which directions they stretch. So that is something really important when you're making those choices to choose fabrics for various patterns. So it's very important to look and make sure that if you're using a two-way stretch fabric, that it is a pattern that will work for that. Some knit patterns do better with four-way stretch. Some do better with a heavy, hefty Ponte. It just depends on the pattern. Now, when somebody talks about stability, a stable knit is one that doesn't stretch as much maybe as some others. It's also one that is a little more heavyweight. This sweatshirt fleece doesn't stretch a lot. It stretches okay, but it's heavier weight. This is a stable knit. Ponte is a stable knit. So that's what they mean when they say use a stable knit. It's one that will hold up to structure. It's not very drapeable, but it is something that you can actually mold with darts and various different kinds of seams, and it will hold its shape. Okay, so that's what they mean by stability. Now, one other property to talk about with knits is the recovery of a knit. If you have, let's say this is an ITY, and you stretch this across the, if you stretch this across the grain, it tends to come right back. The other property, of course, is the type of twist of the yarn that is used. There are many different ones. I'm going to try to go over some basic ones, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding. So let me just go through the different knits and the properties of each one. Jersey is our workhorse, okay? Jersey is the workhorse in our wardrobe. It's our t-shirts. It's just the thing that you grab for comfort. This is a cotton spandex jersey blend, As you can see, it's the best of both worlds. It has the cotton in it, so it's breathable, but it also has that recovery I was talking about because of the presence of the spandex in it. This is my favorite fabric, cotton with some spandex in it, because it is both breathable and recovers well. So a jersey, though, is actually sometimes it's called a single knit, and if you look very closely, you can see that there's ribbing on the right side, and that's because that's what the jersey knitted stitch looks like. Just like if you were knitting and you wanted to knit a jersey, you wanted to use a jersey stitch to knit. The other side does not look ribbed, and it actually would look like a purl stitch if you knit. You know what that is. So that is what a jersey is. I used to think jersey referred to all knits. It does not. It's just the specific type of knit. It actually always has a little bit of ribbing in it if you look really closely. It isn't always like the obvious ribbed cotton that you see, but it is definitely got a little bit of rib in there. All right, so that is jersey. And like I said, I love the ones that have a little bit of spandex in them, because look at this. It's just so much more recovery and will behave so much better for you. Incidentally, I am starting, this is the first in a series of how to handle knits. And I'm delighted to talk about knits because I love sewing them. I did do a basic video on sewing with knits early on in the beginnings of the channel, and that's certainly one you can refer back to. I hope to go into a little more depth and spread it out over a few more videos. So I hope this will help you in your choices of fabric and in your choices of needles and stitches and all those things. One other thing about jersey, just before we move on, is that you can get a 100% cotton jersey. You can get a cotton jersey blend. You can get a rayon jersey blend. It can be 100% rayon, 100% bamboo, which is a really soft knit modal. It can also be wool or silk. So there are many, many different types of jersey. Just wanted to clarify that. They're not all really, really thin either. But that is, the jersey is just the single knit. Basically, without the presence of spandex, jersey stretches only one way. But when you add spandex to it, it does have a bit of stretch the other direction. So interlock is another type, and an interlock is one that is a little bit heavier than the jersey. It has, sometimes it's double-faced, in other words, there's like a double-sided part up to it, and it is very, very soft. I do not have any in my collection at the moment to show you, but it's the kind, if you're familiar with the Doodles fabric at Joann's, many of those are cotton interlock. They're soft, they're sort of great for babies, but they're a little bit thicker, and they're lovely fabrics, they really are. They tend, though, to ravel a lot. They tend to shrink, and it just depends on how much spandex they have in them as to which directions they stretch, okay? But interlock is a great fabric to use as well. I just don't have any at the moment to show you. All right, ITYs, what a lovely fabric. ITYs, it stands for intertwisted yarn, and they are usually synthetic, usually polyester, so it'd be like 100% polyester normally. They are silky and lovely, and even though it's synthetic, they can be really cool to wear because of their silky texture. These are the most drapeable knits you'll ever see, often used in dresses and flowy tops, a little bit thinner in nature, but a fantastic dress fabric. Now, ITYs generally stretch every direction that you possibly can. So one good thing to do with the interlocks and even the rayon spandexes, any of those that have the really super stretchiness in them, let them hang a little bit before you hem them, because they do tend to stretch on the hanger, and you can end up with something growing on you and becoming a little bit too long. So that's one thing I would do with any stretchy knit garment, is to let it hang or on your mannequin or whatever, a day, even at least a couple hours, and make sure that it does its stretching before you hem it out. Then that brings us to Ponte. I didn't have any Ponte in my collection at the moment, but it is a heavier, stable knit. It is usually double-faced, meaning it has a different appearance on the other side, and it is two-way stretch and usually pretty stable. So that is Ponte. I'm not a Ponte person per se. It's not one of my favorite fabrics, so I don't have any to show you at the moment. But it can be very useful for suits, for tailored dresses that you want to be in knit. That's Ponte. You need to be really careful with Ponte that you choose the right patterns. It does not have enough stretch for some knit patterns, just as a heads up. That brings me to sweater knit. Sweater knit is loosely woven. It can be heavy or light. This is a really pretty one that I can't wait to do something with. But it's loosely weaved. And what is so nice about our loosely stitched, because obviously non-woven fabrics are not weaved, are not woven. It's loosely stitched together, meaning it is, if this were a woven, you would say it's loosely woven, but knits are not woven, so they are actually looped. So it's loosely looped, I guess. They can grow and stretch out of shape, so when you wash them, it's better to lay them flat. Sweater knits are just wonderful. They're great for cardigans, they're great for toppers, all kinds of things, and again, very, very stretchy. Be careful how you wash it. Delicate cycle, lay flat to dry. Never hang a sweater knit garment because it will grow on you and then it'll be all out of shape. All right, that brings me to one of my very favorites, double brushed poly. Now, double brushed poly is just that. It's a polyester, so kind of like an ITY would be, stretches in every direction, but it's been brushed. And double brushed poly is wonderful. It's thin, so it drapes. You have to be careful in the summertime though, because it can be warm to wear. But because it's light, it doesn't bother some people. But just if you're a person that really gets heated wearing synthetic fabrics, you might want to steer away from it. But I love it, and it makes great undergarments. This is like my favorite underwear fabric for sure. Makes wonderful dresses, tops. It is like the workhorse a lot of times in my sewing. I love double brush poly. They have some of the most beautiful floral fabrics to choose from, more and more all the time. It's now coming in more solids, and it is a fabulous fabric to use. Lightweight, very, very stretchy. Cotton spandex is 95-5 usually, meaning 90% cotton and 5% spandex, where it's enough to give it good recovery but still have the cool wearing properties of cotton. So this is a fabulous fabric to work with. This is another staple that I love to use. This is wonderful for kids' clothes. This is wonderful for tops. Summertime, just wonderful. And another specialty fabric here is swim. Now, swim is usually nylon spandex, but there are some swim fabrics that have some UV treatment to them to make them less likely for you to sunburn and that kind of thing. But basically, I think this is 90% nylon, 5% spandex or thereabouts. Wonderful fabric for swim. You can also use these for compression garments like athletic wear and that kind of thing. Many of the athletic knits will also fall into the nylon spandex. So that's some of the knits. There are more. There are different types. There's Supplex, which is used a lot in athletic wear. There's mesh. There's all kinds of different, but they're all combinations of natural fabrics and synthetic fabrics with a touch of spandex to make them recover usually. So that is the knit world. And how you choose when you are looking at a fabric and you're in Joann's, if you cannot see the content of the fabric, pull it off a little bit, check the feel of it. How heavy is it? It's not heavy, then maybe it's good for those draping blouses and things like that. Obviously that's swim, so it wouldn't even count. But cotton spandex, if you're ordering it online, look for 10 ounce. That's a nice hefty cotton spandex. 7 ounce, 8 ounce is okay too, but if you get much less than 8 ounces or so in weight, it's going to be pretty thin. So you want to do a nice 10 ounce cotton lycra. That's my favorite. Girl Charlie has wonderful cotton lycra. I ordered a mystery box of cotton lycra from Nick of Time, and that was also wonderful. A little bit slow to get here, but in this world of COVID, a lot of things are slow. You can tell by the feel of a fabric, usually, kind of how much natural fiber it has and how much polyester. And when you get to the double brush poly or the ITYs that are totally synthetic, you know, you just need to factor that in, that if you have a problem with wearing synthetic fabrics, that maybe, you know, you want to steer away from that. But you can usually tell by the feel of things like that. And I recommend that even if you don't want to buy anything, you go to your local fabric store and you just feel the fabric. And look on the top of the bolts. It will usually have the content, usually. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you go ahead and you look and you get familiar with all the things that it says about that, and then when you order online, you'll be so much more knowledgeable about what you're getting. Look for how heavy it is. Does it give an ounce count? Now, like if you're thinking about weight, jeans are usually like a good 8 ounce, 10 ounce jeans. Those are like the Levi type jeans. Okay, then you can go lighter and lighter until you can almost get into a chambray, which is a light blouse material. So you can just kind of see that by the weight. That's something that if you just kind of, every fabric you buy, read and absorb every single thing that it says about it, it'll make you much more knowledgeable about shopping online. Another thing, and sadly they have discontinued it for the moment because of COVID, because of their lack of staff right now, but Vogue Fabrics has a Swatch Club, and they send out swatches of their new collections. I think it's 4 times a year, maybe, something like that. So when they do that, they have the swatches and they have the content. And that is a really great way to learn what different types of fabrics feel like. And I would highly suggest, you can even order back issues, and you can order back issues for free, although I don't think they're doing that right now. So if you, when things turn around, that is a wonderful thing to do. I have a book from Amazon. It's called Fabric for Fashion, the Swatch book. And there are swatches of lots of different types of fabric in here. So these are different jerseys. Here's a classic interlock jersey, and then there's single jersey interlock, and this is like a jersey sweatshirt fabric, which is way more stretchy than the one that I showed you like this. See, there's so many different kinds. So you can go through. Here's a silk satin, cotton poplin. Here's a nylon with elastane, so this is like a swim here. Elastane, spandex, and lycra are all the same thing. Okay, so you'll see different times they'll say elastane, that's spandex. They'll say lycra, that's also spandex. I believe those are brand names. And spandex, I think spandex and lycra are brand names. I'm not sure which is the brand and which is the like generic name, but those are all three the same thing. Probably elastane is the real name, and spandex and lycra are the brand names, I think. I don't know. If somebody knows that, put it in the comments. So anyway, that's just a little bit of how you can be more confident shopping online for knits. Look for the weight, and look for the amount of stretch. Sometimes they'll have it, sometimes they won't. If you're in the fabric store and you're looking, I mean, you don't have to buy anything to just go feel the fabrics and look at the top of the bolts. And if you want to see how much stretch something has, you just line it up along a ruler. You know, you take like 4 inches. It's better to cut a swatch off, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then see how far you can stretch it. And then you just take that ratio, and that's that percent of stretch that the garment had, or that the fabric has. So it's pretty simple, and sometimes it will say this fabric calls for at least 20% stretch. Knowing that, you know, when you have a stretch woven, especially that's like a woven fabric that has some spandex in, you know, then you got to be real careful about the amount of stretch, because you want to make sure that it's enough that it's going to actually fit. That is our first introduction to the world of knits. I hope that the types of fabric has helped you. Make that trip to a fabric store, do your exploring, look closely at the contents written on online shops. Some shops are better than others about listing all the contents and all the properties. I would recommend shopping from those that list those things, unless you know them really, really well. In which case, you know, if you've shopped, then you know what their cotton spandex is like, and so on. So I would look for 95.5 for cotton spandex. ITY, probably can't really go wrong too much. If you like ITY, then you should do that. Double brush poly is pretty much always the same, I think. So that is the world of knits. I hope that it's helped. So over this next couple videos, I'm going to be talking to you more about working with knits. And then I'm also going to give you some serger basics, which people have asked me for, and go on from there. Have a wonderful day and happy sewing.